Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Guthrie.
And today's topic is about the huge EA scandal that is going on right now.
EA.
EA stands for Electronic Arts. What do you know about this, if anything?
What do I know about Electronic Arts, or what do I know about the scandal, or both?
Scandal, really. And scandal definitely in like major, heavy, double quotations.
You mean it's not really some people might consider it a scandal, and the rest of the world might not.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we talked about this recently, right, on an airplane?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that it has to do with the gaming industry.
Okay.
I know it has to do with behavioral economics and games, and even some, I would say, user experience design issues. And and the whole, and one could also say it has to do with ethics. And that's kind of what I remember from our airplane conversation.
It's not a whole lot.
Did I flunk?
Oof.
Did I flunk the quiz?
I'm
always giving you a quiz.
So basically there's a game called, I'm going to get all this wrong, and the exact details are not entirely important, to be honest. You can go online and read long thought pieces about it.
Yeah.
So my understanding is there's a game called Star Wars Battlefield 2. And basically, for a bunch of years ago, Disney bought the rights to the Star Wars universe for $4 billion.
Okay.
Which now seems like the most, ridiculous, underpayment forever.
Did it seem like a lot at the time?
People were kind of like, this doesn't seem like a lot. $4 billion is a lot,
okay.
But it's like, that's like 100 years of Star Wars video game royalties.
Yeah.
So, so it was like, it kind of was a lot, but it also kind of was not a lot. So people were like, this doesn't seem, I don't know, right? They weren't quite sure what to think about it.
Okay.
Anyways, and of course, then as soon as Disney got their hands on it, they've made 6 movies. The first movie alone, I believe, grossed over $1 billion and is still, so just like
which one was the well, never mind.
Yeah.
Keep going.
The point is that they now have this video game, the Battlefield 2, and this is a long line of video games, and it's going to make a ton of money.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying that Disney owns EA?
No. So I don't know. I know how familiar are you with the whole industry?
The online game industry?
No, it's not online games, just like games in general.
Not super familiar. I will confess, I'm not a game player in general.
Yeah.
Although I can be quite killer at Monopoly, but regular board Monopoly. But in general, I'm not big on games, and I know that you are.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So Disney buys the rights, but what
the point is okay.
Yeah,
so the way video
in?
games work is you have what's called developers, and I am also going to slaughter this. So I'm sorry to people who actually know what they're talking about. So Disney, so there's the developer of a game, and then there's the publisher of a game.
Okay.
So my understanding is that EA works with Disney, and they're like, let's make a Star Wars game. And so then EA has all these relationships, or they directly own, a bunch of developer companies, and those would be the people who actually create the game.
Okay.
And there are a couple famous developers out there, and I won't get into it. The point is that after they create the game, then it then goes to EA, who publishes the title. So I think it's kind of like a producer, the way, production company would, right? So you have the film studio.
But somehow this all belongs to Disney.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Disney just makes, anything Star Wars is interesting for Disney. Disney's actually not really the big player in this. It's really EA.
Okay.
EA is just one of the biggest and best game publishers in the world.
Now that part I did know.
Yeah, they've been around for a very long time.
Yeah, a long time.
They have a wide array of games. They're very tight with a lot of industries. They make they have a whole thing. They generally have not been particularly user friendly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They've generally sided with kind of big corporate.
They do have a UX group, or they did.
I
knew some people who were in their UX group.
Well, I'd hope they have a UX group.
Yeah.
That's
But when
fine.
you said they weren't user friendly, what did you mean by that?
Oh, sorry. I realized I was talking to a UX person.
Right.
They make decisions that are not in the best interest of the customer.
Okay.
They have a fairly bad reputation for making profit motive based decisions instead of consumer centric based decisions.
Well, they are a company. This is a dilemma for everybody, right?
Well, yeah, but in particular, there's just a lot of stuff that they do. So, for example, do you know about pre-ordering?
Pre-ordering a game?
Yes.
It probably has a special meaning in the game world.
So basically, if there's a game you're really looking forward towards.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can pre-order it.
Okay.
And basically, what that means is that you have the kind of like the usual thing that you do. And the way pre-orders work is you're gonna pay extra in advance. But then, in theory, you'll get some stuff.
So I'll get extra stuff that other people won't get.
You might get a couple extra loot crates, or something. And you get first access to the game.
Okay.
But really what it is in general, it's generally known to be kind of like a bad, dumb deal. Because, you're paying all this money, so they get millions of dollars before the game comes out.
Yeah.
And then,
This is like ordering a Tesla?
Yes. Yes, it's exactly like ordering a Tesla.
Okay.
The only problem is they have a really bad history with pre-orders, where sometimes what they say will be in the game will not be in the game, for example.
Okay.
That's generally not a very nice thing. And yeah, so there are various things that people have gotten very angry about. And so on the flip side, people should stop pre-ordering. On the other side, whatever. You can't tell who are you to tell a consumer what they can and can't do.
Okay.
So that's that's just the first part. Then there is the whole fact that that's part one, is like this pre-ordering stuff where they're basically just getting free money from people they know will just purchase the game, whatever, because it's a Star Wars game. Like, of course everyone's going to get it.
Yeah.
My point is that there's a series of uncustomer friendly practices. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just trying to give you, and hopefully you find this like it illuminating, because I'm just trying to give you like kind of the backstory.
This is the background to the upcoming.
Yeah, like why we are here, why we are.
Why people are really upset.
Yeah. So because there's a context to it.
All right, so that's the history, and then something else happened.
So, no, well, we're not entirely through the history yet. So, do you understand what microtransactions are?
Microtransactions. Can I guess?
Yes.
So I'm going to guess that you're playing a game, and while you're playing the game, there's things you could buy or charges that are assessed that will allow you to do extra stuff with the game.
Yes.
Am I right? Kind of.
Yeah, so you've purchased the game, right?
Yeah, I bought the game. I paid, I don't know, how much money would I pay for games?
$60.
I paid $60 for a game, and so I own, I quote.
But let's start with free games, right?
Okay.
So the thought is, okay, so you have a free game.
Yeah.
And you're not paying for it.
Right.
But the thought is, well, okay, yeah, you're not paying for it, but you're getting, but then some people will want to do better. So it's kind of, it's like in-game purchases. Now, sometimes it gets really complicated. Some games, the in-game purchases are just like cosmetic items. So, for example, a game like Heroes of the Storm, it's like just cosmetic items. But some games, they have the bad reputation of also doing, like, it's called play to win. Okay? So like I want to do a little bit better than the rest of the game, than everyone else. So I'll pay extra money for, like, perks.
You mean like for special tools or special powers or something that only people who've paid money can do?
Yeah. Now, a lot of games traditionally only do the cosmetic item thing, and that's very nice of them, right?
What is a cosmetic? Give an example of a cosmetic item.
I want my hero to have, like, a cool like set of armor.
Okay.
That not everyone has.
All right. But it doesn't mean I'm going to get further in the game. It just means my guy's going to look cool. Okay.
Now, this is especially important in multiplayer games, because if you have things that are unequal with multiplayer games, right, then, like, it's no fun.
So it doesn't matter that in a multiplayer game that my guy looks cool. Paying for that, you're saying, makes sense. But now if I'm paying so that my guy in a multiplayer game can, has special powers or special tools, then the people who can spend money have an advantage in the multiplayer game.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So, again, it's all kind of in the context of this stuff.
Okay.
And it's a part of it is to what level are companies doing this, and it's been a nasty trend for a while. So that's kind of the backstory. All right.
Okay.
But now I want to involve you with the behavioral psychology aspects of these of things, because there's a whole nother side to this, which is the behavioral psychology side. So what EA started doing in a lot of their games was a system of what's called loot crates. Okay? And this is really like the culmination of a bunch of nasty stuff that game publishers have been putting into video games for a while.
Loot crates.
Sorry. Loot. L-O-O-T.
Oh, loot. Loot crates. Okay, what does that mean?
So, in the past, think of a normal traditional video game where you level up with experience points, right?
Yeah.
So, before, you do stuff, you get experience points, then you can unlock more items and more perks and more this and more that, right?
All right. Now, before you continue.
Yeah.
I just want to put in, I said before I was not big on gaming, but I did want to mention a historical fact, which is many years ago, I went kind of probably, maybe not illegally, but certainly not sanctioned.
The statute of limitations has passed.
Okay, good. I went with someone who worked at, let's just say they worked at a government agency, and he brought in a bunch of us to where he worked in the middle of the night so that we could use the computers to play the original computerized version of Dungeons and Dragons, which could only be done on mainframe computers because those were the only computers that existed and the only computers that would have even had enough power. Of course, they don't have as much power as your smartphone, but and there were no images in this game. Have you ever played the original Dungeons and Dragons? Is that even available?
No, no, almost certainly not. They have. I know a little bit about D&D, and they've definitely changed. I think it's on its like. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna try. But it's definitely, there are new revisions and new stuff that.
Well, the original was it was just done with words. You know, you type.
Well, it's still all mostly done with words.
Okay.
There are now maps and stuff, but that's
okay. Anyway,
yeah,
I just wanted to mention that even though I don't have a lot of experience with games, I do have a little bit of historical experience. All right, back to your story. So we've got where did we leave off? I forgot.
So okay, yeah, no, well that's a fun story. I mean, sneaking in at NASA. I like it.
I didn't name the government agency. You just did.
Well, I can cut that out if you want.
No, that's fine. You said the statute of limitations was up.
I mean, there were. Yeah.
Okay, it was NASA. Next.
So. Yeah. So that's part one. The NASA part. No, I kid. So I don't even know where I was. Was I talking about loot? I was talking about loot crates, right?
Yeah. You said you were going to get into the behavioral science.
So, essentially, back in the day, you used to be able to have you would just grind, right? You do stuff, and then your heroes would have more experience, and then with more experience, you'd be able to buy more stuff.
Because you just played a lot. You'd played a certain amount of numbers of games or a certain number of time, and so you were leveling up, as you said.
Yeah. The problem is that for the longest time, it was very consistent. What game developers, and you could maybe pay to win, right? There was a pay to win feature of it, where you just get more stuff. So, but what game developers have started doing is, instead of that, they've now started to create these things called loot crates, and this is what EA did, and this is the what some would argue the insidious bad behavior. So when you get XP, you don't unlock stuff, okay? What you actually unlock is a loot crate. And the loot crate allows you to buy power-ups and things.
Okay, and so why is this a bad thing?
I'm not explaining this well. So when the loot crate turns on,
yeah,
it rolls. There's a roll of dice.
Okay.
So it's like a slot machine.
Okay.
So when you get the loot crate, you press the button, it opens up, and there's a random oh, look what you've won.
Okay.
Okay? So it doesn't actually have to do with whether, what you've won or what you've purchased. It's a system where, like, you're basically gambling. And I really should just show you a picture of it, of what it looks like.
How can you do that on a podcast?
Well, I said I wish I could.
So
But-
you're saying I'm playing the game and
Yeah, and so instead of just getting like, oh, you now have the Sword of Valor,
Yeah.
you get plus 50, Gibblebots or,
right.
right? Like whatever it is.
Now I get,
Now you get a loot crate.
which doesn't give me anything.
What it does give you, well, it gives you the chance to get something.
Okay. And what do I have to do to take the chance?
Well, you open the loot crate and it rolls the dice.
Okay. And
Well, you don't know. Maybe you'll just get a little gold, a little in-game currency. Maybe you'll get maybe you'll get a legendary item.
yeah.
And so essentially every time so the way you level up every time is through a slot machine. That's what they're doing. Does that make sense?
But why do you think that's a bad thing?
Because it's trying to you're basically trying to make things addictive.
Do I have
As
to
addictive as
pay to
possible.
get a loot crate?
Well, that's the thing, is that that depends on the game. And some games, there are games where you pay, and some games there are games where it's a combination where you can pay. Some games it's just okay, so you just you're leveling up,
Yeah, because you've played a bunch.
Yeah, because you've played a bunch, and then you get a loot crate. It depends on the game, but regardless of how it's doing it, it's definitely it's definitely like you have to it's definitely forcing you to gamble. So it's that's why it's like two different things. It's one thing to, okay, we're gonna have these loot crates. That's like, okay, whatever. It's another thing. We are going to have like a system which is intrinsically addictive. And then the second part is, okay, now we're gonna not only do you have to purchase the game, but you also have to pay for it if you want to do better. And then we're going to set up this system where you basically pay for casino gamble rolls to do better at the game. So is this making some sense?
Yeah, I think so. So what you're saying is that by using these loot crates and by using the ideas of conditioned responses with the roll of the dice and the lights flashing, or however they're doing the casino-like, slot machine-like play, that you're conditioning people to want to have that experience of the lights going off. And by pairing that to, in some cases, charging more money to have that experience, right?
Right.
Your contention is that you are getting people into a conditioned response loop in which they will spend more and more money, even though they may have already bought the game, but they're going to spend more and more money just so that they can have the experience of the casino-like play, and then end up with more tools and more powers
Right.
to have an advantage against
Right.
other people.
So they're basically, so not only do you have to pay for the game, but also it's forcing you to become like a gambling addict.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially pay more, because this is like, so game developers see this as a new source of a new revenue stream. Because in the past you just had the
You bought the game.
You bought the game and that was it. But now, right, you buy the game, but also, okay, so now there's all these power-ups and things, and people can be buying, paying for upgrades and perks for forever.
And how, do you have any data about whether people really are doing this a lot in terms of the users, the customers?
Um,
Like, do people do it, or do they just say, "Oh, forget this"?
oh, people definitely do it. Well, first of all, if you're making power-ups mandatory through a loot crate progression system, like, yeah, so like then yeah, definitely people are doing it. Because everyone has to go through the loot crate, even if you don't spend any money. But I definitely know that the companies are making a lot of money doing this.
Which is why they're continuing to do it, and they're doing it more.
Yes.
All right. Now, let me ask you a question, though, Guthrie. What is wrong with companies wanting to make money and putting things in their products in order to make money?
So it was so interesting because all over the internet, when this story broke, I suppose, if that's the word you want to use, there was like 1,000 different like stories all about Skinner. B.F. Skinner. It was like, seriously, it was all over the place. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny.
People finally getting interested in
Skinner? Like pop articles about conditioned response. Seriously.
Okay, but I'm going to go back to what is wrong with... I mean, there are casinos that do the same thing. There's... Right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So what's wrong with using these techniques to make money?
It feels like they are using behavioral science to addict people in a evil and manipulative way. So one argument, okay, so slot machines?
Yes.
They are regulated so that they must be random. You can set the amount of randomness that you have.
Yeah.
But they still, by law, they have to, there's a certain percentage of payout that you have to, that you just have to pay out.
So it's rigged in a way because
the house always wins. But
sometimes
at any given,
the human will win.
Yeah, at any given, spin of the wheel, right? Like you have the same chances of winning as any other spin. The game industry there's no regulation, and it's a computer program, so it literally could be rigged against the human to make them spend more. Like you're getting into the most insidious.
So you're saying that the game makers are not under the same laws in the U.S. as the casino slot machine.
Correct.
People are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. And has this been noted? I mean, I am not up on just online gambling in general. And I should be, since I've done some consulting work for the FTC, but I don't know about the legal status of whether, if you have if online gambling is even allowed, and if you have it, is it regulated in the same way?
I'll just put it this way. It's very murky waters.
Yeah.
It's very murky waters. And that's okay.
So what are people doing? Are they just saying, okay, you know what? I'm not going to buy games from these manufacturers, or I'm not going to play games at all, or...
Well, no one's going to say that. But there's definitely certain manufacturers that do a worse job than others, and they're definitely... There's a movement like, don't buy this game, because that's the only way that it's going to happen. But there is a certain sense of like, this is really bad. Like the fact that you have this unregulated industry that can use so let's what if I turned to you and I said, hey, here's $1 million, go figure out the best way to get people to spend real money on a video game.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Oh, wow.
No ethics. You can do whatever you want.
No ethics.
No, exactly. We literally just want people to spend as much real money on this, video game as possible.
Oh, well, I mean, I would use Pavlovian conditioning, Skinner reward schedules, probably something to do with sex, social validation factors, and the desire for mastery.
Okay, thank you for plugging your book.
No, I'm saying that's what I would use, although I wouldn't do it.
But can you give me some specifics?
And
in what way is it not setting up a system of loot crates that are essentially, they spin and they make noise, and they, right?
Yeah, I hear you. Obviously, they've, somebody either stumbled upon or purposely strategized the use of conditioned responses to get, it sounds like, I mean, I don't have the data or the proof that it works and so on, but I'll take your word for it. But they stumbled on the idea that this stuff affects behavior, which it does. So yeah, I mean, however, I guess it brings up, the larger ethical question that we've talked about before, which is what's okay and what's not okay. And I think it's kind of interesting to, focus in on the gaming, the game software industry as the true bad guys. I guess I would wonder if, there's lots of other places where this is done, and I would then want to question why is all this focus on how the gaming people are bad guys in this, when I think a lot of people do it, but maybe
I think it's
yeah. Go ahead.
Because I think a big part of it has to do with just I think it's the trend. I think people, they don't like the way the trend looks. I think that's a big part of it. I think a big part of it has to do with the fact that this is going to spread into every video game. Why would this stop? And it's a bigger question, and here's my question for you that I probably should have asked a long time ago. Can science be too good?
You mean too effective?
Yeah. Is there, so if you look at heroin, okay? Heroin is so effective at making a person addicted. It's just unfair. There's just nothing, if you take heroin, you are going to be addicted to heroin.
Yeah.
It's just this, not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, that once you kind of enter into this certain realms of activity, well, in terms of heroin, you're talking about physiologically, you are, your body and brain become addicted. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a question anymore. A lot of people would argue, not everyone agrees with this, but a lot of people would argue it's not a question of, free will, because essentially you you don't have free will anymore because your body and your brain are addicted to a chemical.
Right.
Now, you are, I assume, asking, are the effects of, conditioned responses and what, Pavlovian conditioning and behavioral operant conditioning strong enough that they kind of fall into the same category where, it's not fair because a person becomes addicted without meaning to, and now they can't control their behavior. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that I don't put slot machines in the same category as heroin, although gambling addiction is very real and does cause changes to the brain and brain chemicals. But, if you're talking about something like heroin, if someone takes heroin, I don't know what the percentage is, but, most people will become addicted. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a small percentage.
Well, no, it's like 95%.
Yeah, whereas
like
if people go to a casino, a much smaller percentage are going to end up having a gambling addiction and a gambling problem. Most people, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know the numbers, but most people will be able to walk away and say,
what could you do to make that higher? How could you improve the slot machine if you could do anything?
Well, I think that the casinos know the same science that the game makers know.
Yes, but they're regulated.
But they're regulated by law, so that's probably the difference. I think that the casinos have an advantage over the game players because they can control much more than just what someone is seeing on the screen. They can control the entire context, the entire environment, and they do. The sounds, the noise, the smells, the lack of clocks, the lack of, any physical indication of where the exit is, and all those things. They do control that, and they do a very good job at it. And, the EA or any other game manufacturer does not have control right now over what you are looking at if you're talking about a game. Now, the place where this, I think, will become even more problematic is in virtual reality, because in that context, they do have a lot more control over the environment. They're at least controlling the environment you're seeing and experiencing, while you have a headset on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you don't regulate it, I don't know. I don't know if regulation is the answer. You're a lawyer, so you might think that regulation is the answer. I'm not sure if regulation is the answer, but I think that I think that these are really important questions, and I think that as we get into the whole AI machine learning, it becomes even more important because if you've I wonder if anyone's done this yet. We have the theory behind why this stuff works, and we can look at the brain's reaction and reward centers in the brain and all of that. A machine or AI could do kind of endless A/B testing and could just start creating algorithms that there might be nuances here to what causes more and more conditioned responses that we don't even know about and we don't even understand.
Like the
most perfect combination of sound and lights and color and the size of the and should it be balloons or a burst of color or stars or I'm sure there are incredible nuances that we don't know about that a machine can figure out. And so I almost feel like I shouldn't have said that because, somebody listening who is in the gaming industry might go, wow, we didn't think of that. We got to get on that. But they're probably already on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
So it's only going to get worse. That whole thing, this whole idea of, what would you say? Taking advantage of some of our natural, normal, conditioned responses that have developed over, millions of years through evolution, the things that grab our attention, the things that set off our reward centers. These are unconscious automatic reactions we have to stuff. And, so I'm more worried about the AI machine learning aspect of this than I am of a company like EA doing what they could do to make money.
Interesting.
That would be what I would say, because once they start doing the AI machine learning part of it, it'll make even more money. And I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do with this. But you got to understand, I kind of have this, I've been worried about, I'm giving a presentation next week in Brussels on a version of our, the future of human technology interaction, and I'm reading, Yuval Harari's book Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, in which
so you have I don't want to say an ulterior motive, but
no, I don't have an ulterior motive. I just have kind of a dark view. At the current moment, I'm immersed in all things that can go wrong. But actually, seriously, my beliefs about, and I don't know if we've really done a podcast. We've mentioned this in podcast episodes. I believe that very soon, probably sooner than we realize, humans aren't going to be doing this programming at all anyway. They're not going to be, these famous programmers and developers, game developers you're talking about, they'll be machines. They won't be people. And they'll be making the decisions. And how are we going to regulate any of this? I'm not sure. Are we going to regulate any of it? I'm not sure. So I think we have bigger problems than EA. But I understand the concerns. And I also think it's really interesting. It sounds like this whole gaming community is, I don't know, they sound like an interesting group. And they have, I don't know, there just seems to be this, this whole sense of fairness, this whole sense of, you can make some money, but don't make too much. Don't manipulate us. I don't know. It's just an interesting. It sounds like an interesting group. That they will get, at least a percentage of them will get very passionate and upset about things if they don't think it's fair. But I don't know that fairness was ever. Who said it was ever going to be fair? Like, why did they think it was ever going to be fair?
Well, I guess their thought is, we paid for it, right? Like then like if you're gonna be making all this money in these little microtransactions, then why are we?
So essentially, why are we paying to be manipulated?
Yes, yeah. I think that's a big part of it. I think there's always this sense of, so if you think of like those crappy, really addictive, like phone apps.
Yeah.
Like they're crappy and blah blah blah, but like they're free, right? So like that, like you kind of like that is what, like that's what you're signing up for, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, but if I think a lot of these people, they just want to play Star Wars.
Yeah. So it's the kind of hidden motive and manipulation and layers of payment
Right.
that people are objecting to. I think these are valid objections, but the only thing I guess the only thing you can do is don't use the product.
And that's what that's
and
what everyone's
B,
trying to do.
you could come up with an alternative product that doesn't do that, right? I mean, it might not be the same product, but because of copyright stuff, but you could just come up with an alternative game that is similar but better and not manipulative.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you're a Star Wars fan, to a certain extent, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Because EA has the Star Wars. Like that's part of the point.
That's their thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Guthrie, yeah. What do you think about the the regulation of it?
I think that it probably should be regulated.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to decide.
Belgium already is.
They are? Well, that's where I'm going next week.
Yes.
What are they regulating?
Belgium called for video games to start being regulated as gambling. They basically said that loot crates are gambling, which is not allowed. Yes.
But the U.S. has not followed suit.
Oh, the U.S. hasn't. I mean, Belgium has suggested it, but it's the EU, so it's a whole. It's a complicated process, obviously.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll end up
really
following their lead. Guthrie,
maybe, yeah.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
I am happy to be of assistance.
And if anyone would like to chime in, they can contact us and let us know their thoughts on this. Guthrie, how would they do that?
info@theteamw.com.
Yeah. So, I'm going to go do some loot crates here.
Yeah. You making money?
Not yet. Do you think we could put loot crates into our online courses?
It's not the worst idea.
Just kidding.
Yeah, so info@theteamw.com if you have questions, and I will be around.
The loot crate scandal.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I don't think I did a particularly good job explaining all that, but it is a fascinating issue. I actually encourage lots of people to actually go online and do a lot more.
And get addicted?
No.
But try it out. But actually, it'd be good to try it out.
To go learn a lot more about it, because there's a lot more articles and information online than I then I think I've done a good job explaining. So I encourage everyone to read the smarter pieces. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I will talk to you later.
Bye.